Hello and welcome to the Laramy-K Optician Works Training Center, where last week we did our unboxing video of the Santinelli LEXCE that's on loan to us. This week, I'm going to pick up right where we left off. I'm going to show you how we go about carefully removing all the shipping packing material. I'm going to show you how we set up the water recirculation tank and installing the frame tracing unit. Let's get going. Before I can go digging into the edger, unpacking it, and showing you how you set it up, first I need to take care of that recirculation tank that we were talking about. Let me get those parts and pieces out and review them with you. This is a hose. Got some fittings, more fittings, got some wiring, got some filters, and I've got my bucket. In a moment, I'm going to set that off to the side. And I do have an advantage here. I've done probably 6 or 7 of these installs over the years, so I have some idea what I'm doing. And the tricks that I've learned, I'm going to have some tools standing by. I'm going to have some clippers. You could probably use scissors. I'm going to have 4 wire ties, or ones that are a little bit longer than this. The bigger ones are not a bad idea either. And some Vaseline. And I'm going to get that job out of the way right now. And this is a trick I learned. Aluminum and aluminum in contact with each other is not a great idea. So I want to take just a little bit of Vaseline, get that worked into the threads around. You don't have to get crazy here. Keeps it from seizing up on you over time. That looks pretty good. Set that to the side. And if you have this piece and you look inside of this, you're going to find this rubber gasket, or foam gasket. And you want to give that a little massage with some Vaseline, and that'll do a couple of things. It'll keep it moist so it doesn't collapse on you, dry out, and stop being a gasket or a seal, and it will help keep it in place when you're trying to put everything together and keep it from folding over on you. I'm going to put that right back in there. Now we're going to start to assemble some things. I'm going to take this and this, place that through there, flip that over, take this ring, and thread those together. It doesn't have to be crazy tight, just snug. You're not building a bridge or something. That's good. This won't go on until we actually get to the edger itself, and I need to put in a filter, also known as a stocking. Technical terms and all. Put your hand through there, put that through, grab it. And this, of course, picks up larger debris so it doesn't get recirculated into the tank. These do need to be changed on a fairly regular interval. If you're cutting a whole lot of lenses, let's say you're doing maybe, 8, 10 jobs a day, 16 lenses, you're probably going to want to change your stockings probably every 30 days, but I will check on that and get back to you. And this helps hold that stocking in place. And get that in there. All right, now it's time to assemble the pumps that go in here. We're going to have 2 of these, and as I said, I've done a bunch of these. I actually find this one of the most fiddly bits of this whole process. I'm going to feed this here, and this is where the wire ties come in. I'm going to put these 2 together. That just keeps these things aimed upright. It's a little bit easier to work with them as you're trying to plug things in, take them apart when you need to swap this out, putting everything together, and it does also keep them from ever folding over on themselves and creating a gap or a restriction in the hose, thus cutting off your water supply, which of course you would never want. Of course, be neat, trim those up. Find the other one. Get that dropped into place. do my wire ties. Then I am going to set this thing back down onto the floor. I'm going to grab a nice clean 5-gallon pail of water, and I'm going to fill this up to the fill line, which is indicated on the side of the bucket. There's a picture of that for you so you can know what I'm talking about. Trim that, trim that. That was a nice sound. And again, we're going to do a little trimming on this once we know where I'm going to place it. I could stick these on now, little extension cords. As I just mentioned, you do have to swap this out every once in a while. And when you do, you want to be able to pull it out onto the floor and work with it without having to worry too much about unplugging cords or getting anything tangled up. And we're going to get into this in just a couple of minutes. There is a 1 pump and a 2 pump, and the edger is set up to receive the 1 pump and a 2 pump in a different way because they do perform different functions. Where they are positioned in the tank has nothing to do with it. It strictly has to do with the other end. All right, I think we're about as assembled as we can get. I'm going to set this on the ground and fill it with some water and put it underneath the cabinet, underneath the edger. Okay, I've set this thing on the floor. I am going to top it off with water, and of course, this isn't the first time we've had an edger here, so I already have this cabinet kind of set up for all this. I've got the hole in the cabinet top already drilled out, and I've got the holes in the back to run these cords through, which I'm going to do in a second. So let me just finish topping this off with water. I already put some in there. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to get this cover back on. Go over real quick a little bit about the pumps, and you'll notice that I have these 2 hoses tucked away in here like this. If these fall on the ground, they do create a siphon action, and you will empty the contents of this on your floor, making one heck of a mess, which you don't want to do. So take my word for it. Be careful when you're working with those. Where these pumps are positioned does not matter, but from this point forward, I do need to consider one of them being 1 and one of them being 2. The one with the yellow handle, which allows you to control the flow of water on different edging units, we're going to call number 2. This one, we're going to call number 1. And I've got number 1 labeled out with blue tape, and blue tape. Number 2, I don't. And the hose from number 1 also has blue tape on it, so I can keep everything straight. I'm going to feed these through the back of my cabinet, so they're started for me. And again, the idea behind those extensions on there, just let you work with this from the outside. You're not yanking anything out of the back of the edger or damaging anything, putting tension on anything that you don't want to put tension on. I understand there is a kit that you can also get to do a disconnect on these. This particular unit doesn't have that, but if I get one, I'll certainly let you know about it. And of course, you could always build yourself. You're an optician, so you should be able to figure these things out. All right, let's get this up in here. I do have a little foam pad in here so it doesn't roll around or anything on me. It's kind of heavy. Might want to do 2 people. Okay. My wiring is in place. I'm going to leave my hoses there until I'm ready to hook it up. I need to get this over the hole that I have pre-cut here. Obviously, this is the first edger that we've had in the training center. This has 3 feet, 2 in the front and 1 in the back, and they are extremely sticky rubber. That's to reduce vibration, no chance of it moving around, and make it a little bit quieter. So I didn't really put it in the right place when I set it down. So to make life easy, I'm going to stick a piece of cardboard under this foot, under this foot, and under the one in the back. That should let me pull it over a whole lot easier without dropping it in the hole. Oh, look at that. That's nice. All right. Now, of course, underneath the edger is the place where this drain hose is going to go. Now I'm going to pick the edger up in the front so that I have a little bit more access to what's going on underneath it. I got my 2x4 blocks here. That's good. Now on the drain hose, what you want is the shortest that is possible, but still functioning correctly, right? So there's a ring underneath here, and if you look, you can see it. And that Once you lock it up, there we go, and it shows you how to lock it. It says there. And that's in place. I mentioned that I needed to have these hoses up above the water line so they don't siphon out all over the carpet. So for the moment, I'm going to just pull them out and guide them through up here. And just let them sit there for just a second, and then we'll hook them up. Finish this part, just put this down into there. It's a nice fit, nice straight line from here down. Nothing's going to get caught or puddle up in there. I'd already reviewed with you that we marked this particular one 1, and this will be then hose number 2. It's marked on the front. Pump number 1 will go to the front spigot, and that is underneath here, and you can push that on. These lock in place. You can hear them. You can feel them. These are great fittings. Not going to give you any problems. I am all buttoned up underneath here. Now we're going to spin it around. I'm going to show you how to plug in the 2 pumps, and then we'll get to unwrapping her. Okay, we're at the back of the machine now. I'm going to hook up the pumps. I'd already shown you that we had marked pump number 1 with blue tape. Blue tape, here's the extension cord. Put a little piece of blue tape here. It's also marked 1 as well. Check out the plug orientation and get that plugged in. A little firm pressure there. Obviously, the other one is going to be plug number 2. This particular machine does have a 3rd plug, but we don't use it in this particular setup. Part of the final unwrap and setup of this machine is going to require that it has power. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the power cord as well. Good. Spin this thing around, get it back up against the wall, and finish the unwrapping setup process. All right, we've gone through. We've got our circulating tank in place. Everything's wired up, plumbed up. It's time to continue the unwrapping or unveiling process. And the very first thing we're going to do in that is probably the single most important step in this entire thing. And the innards of this thing, the tracking of it, is held down for shipping with a screw. And you have to remove that screw before you turn the machine on and begin processing anything. Failure to do so would do some serious damage. That screw is located on the side of the unit. It is a 4mm Allen. Back that screw all the way out and remove it. If this was my edger, not on loan, I would probably punch a hole in here and save it here because you can't lose this. This has to be put back in if you ever ship this unit, sell it, or send it off for any reason. Another possibility would be to simply take some tape like this and tape it to the back of the machine. Really important piece, but I'm going to just drop it in there for the now. Just like the rest of this process, though, just be really slow, methodical. Take your time here. Make sure you're not leaving anything behind. Don't yank on anything. Everything should come out fairly easily. If something feels like it's not quite right, take your time, look at it, and see if you can't figure out what's going on. There's all kinds of tape on here. I'm just going to start peeling some of that off. This is our blocking unit. That slid out real nice and easy. We can open our door. And this is one of those cases where I don't want to force anything. Let's see. There we go. Yep, I just had to get that a little bit out of the way so that I could go all the way back. Pull that out. Pull this out. Okay, there's a piece that's squeezed in the chuck inside here. I'll get you a close-up of that. And oh, there's a drill unit back here that's protected as well. And that just leaves that little chuck piece in there. There's also an arm in here, another piece that secures everything in place during shipping. And I need to get out as well, so it's back to my tool kit. There's a set screw at the very top of that. Back it off so it's about flush with the top. You don't need to remove it. You wouldn't want to because it'll drop down. Probably get lost somewhere that you really don't want a little set screw floating around. Loosen the bottom. You can slide around a little bit now. I'm going to reach in, going to push from the bottom, freeze it up, and then I'm actually going to push that shaft up out of the way. It'll move for you, and I can grab that piece and pull it out. just like that screw that I took out before. I'd find a place to hide this and keep it forever if I were you. Okay, the next step is we're going to get this piece of foam out from between the chuck, and in order to do that, we need to plug the machine in. I'm going to plug it in, right, and we're going to turn that machine on. Oh, I didn't even have to push any buttons. It already withdrew. And that is my last piece of packing material that I need to remove to start actually working with the edger. Our next step is going to be installing the tracer unit on this machine. What I need to do is I need to remove this particular cover right here. So it's got 3 screws, the same tool that you used for that clamp that was inside there. And I'm going to pull those out. And you are going to reuse these, so don't lose them. I've got my toolkit open. There's a nice sponge top there. I think I'm going to set them right there so nothing gets lost. One, 2. She was snug. And 3. I'm going to take this cover off now, and you will not reuse this, but again, like everything else, don't throw it away. Keep it handy. Now you may ask yourself, why doesn't this just come with this installed? Well, these machines can also be used in other settings, like in multiple series, in a big lab. They have separate tracing units, information being sent from an LMS instead of a unit at all. Also can have blockers like that, so that's why it doesn't come that way. Now inside here in this cavity, you've got a set of cables, and this has to get plugged into the back of the tracer. And it's got a place where this actually goes through. I think what I'm going to do is tape this out of my way. I'm sure that may be overkill, but I think I'm going to do that anyway. Got that taped out. I'm going to bring this over too, and I'm going to bring that in position. That looks pretty good. I think I'm going to need my optician fingers here in order to do this. And this connector has some right amp P2115, and those are going to face forward on this. I'm going to turn that around, get it on there. All right, I've got that wire in place, and there's one other piece. This would be so incredibly easy to forget. I need to put this spacer in this back hole here underneath the unit right there. That takes care of that. Get this out of the way. Gently set that down. Make sure I don't have that cable pinched, which I don't. Looks good. Okay. As long as I'm back here, this also has a retention screw to hold things in place while it is in shipping. I use my medium-size Allen wrench. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out now. Another one of those things you don't want to lose, tape or the box. Do that now or while you're doing this. I mean, I have the freedom of coming back to here because, you know, I'm here, I live here. But for you, don't lose this stuff. You know, keep track of it now. Get a baggie, get some, painter's tape, something. Make sure you don't lose these parts and pieces. All right, so that's good. I can put these screws in now. Got hole number 1. And we are good there. All right. I had mentioned as I was unwrapping, I didn't know what these were. I looked in the manual, and it turns out they're frame holders, and I'll go into a whole lot more on that when we get to frame tracing, but figured, well, they're part of this, so I think I'll just go ahead and screw them on there now. I'll show you how they work when I trace a frame. Let's pull the packing material out of here. Just gently lift up on this. This is a special piece of foam designed to keep that in place. All right, just let that go where it is. The final step in making sure that the frame tracing unit is set up is making sure that it's having a nice talk with the edger. In order to find out if they're talking, we need to turn it on. So what this screen is telling me is that they are in fact not talking to each other. So it's time to introduce them. From this screen, I'm going to press and hold my menu button. That brings me into service mode. I'm going to enter in my passcode to get in there. I'm going to push the number 5, and you can see it says built-in tracer, and right now it says none. If I hit my none and hit execute, I'm good. I can go back to my home screen. Tracer is still grayed out. It's all right, do not panic, everything is fine. We're going to turn the unit off. And we are going to turn the unit back on. And now you can see that that tracer that was grayed out doesn't say tracer anymore. Now it has a picture of a frame. The next system check is to make sure that the machine is actually level. Obviously, we need to have the machine in its, shall we say, final resting place, or where you're actually going to be running lenses. It's a self-check, so machine is on, and I'm going to enter that service menu again. Enter, hit 5 again, just like we did when we were setting this up, and you have the tracer information here. And there's one down, one up from the bottom. It says horizontality check, and I'm going to hit that. And it says open the clamp, so I'm going to open the clamp there, and I'm going to push OK. And I'm going to keep holding the clamp open. And you can see in here the tracer starting to go through its self-check. That's normal behavior, don't freak out. Okay, and it says that the instrument is in a horizontal state, so we are good to go. If it said anything else, if the machine was down in the front or left or right, the little feet under here are adjustable, just like an ordinary desk or a table. They spin like a screw. Do not be tempted to pick up the instrument by the blocker. I know it looks like a really great handle. Don't do that. You sure would mess something up. Use the handles back here. You may want to use 2 people, have somebody picking up and the other one adjusting the wheels. But this one is good to go in that check. Thanks so much for watching. I do hope you picked up at least a few pointers along the way there. If you did, please hit the subscribe button. Please give us a like. Leave me a comment. Make sure that every uncut lens in your optical life comes from Laramy-K. I will see you again next week when we wrap up this little series on the LEXCE when I cover some of the features.